Hello there. Good evening. Um, Speaking of a subject that has dragged on long enough, the COVID-19, um, there was a period in time where I thought it's either going to expand or it's going to dissipate. And the way the system works is that it is not going to dissipate. Uh, I want to tackle different topics of the main subject, and I briefly touched base on this on one of my earlier videos, and that's being asymptomatic. There's no such thing as asymptomatic. Not to say that they don't have COVID and that they're not showing signs of the disease, yet they are still contagious, supposedly. This is a lie. I'll explain why. Um, Basically, someone, when they get tested, in the smallest amount of COVID-19 in the body can be detected. The authorities are lying about their capabilities of zeroing in on a patient's ailment of COVID-19, if they have the virus or not. Yet, it is not widespread testing. They are deciding not to go that route because probably for crowd control and panicking. They're already distancing themselves from that by creating a different set of circumstances that cause people to panic and genuinely behave poorly. And that would be this whole Black Lives Matter thing. I'm not going to talk much about it because I don't find it an interesting subject. I don't find COVID a very interesting subject either. However, I find it a little less interesting, or a little more less interesting than Black Lives Matter, I should say. Anyone can be asymptomatic by the definition of having COVID and showing no symptoms. It's on a microscopic level. So a microscopic of a microscope level. And anybody, the elderly, the weak, the young, anybody can be asymptomatic at the right dosage of COVID-19. And I have no doubt in my mind that the government is planning on introducing that in certain stages to create a vaccination as soon as possible. And there will be a great many people clamoring for it. Especially when they see the everyday life of people, coughing and hacking away, because we're hearing that this winter is going to be particularly bad for that, as far as the flu season, which is not got anything to do with COVID, of course not. It's all to blur the image so that the common everyday man doesn't know anything. And I think it's all COVID. You hear someone hacking away. If it's not a smoker's cough, it's COVID. Um, and there's not really clearly defined lines as to what COVID exactly looks like. Like, there have been people who've been very sick and who have died from COVID, but the lines can be blurred when you start adding additional factors to their health, which can distort the image of what COVID looks like. I mean, it's no different in the sense that the common everyday man, if you don't know somebody who has a particular ailment, you don't know what it looks like, really. You can't Google search that. They don't want you doing that. They want you to speak to your healthcare provider to find that sort of information. And there is wisdom in that. but there is also corruption and power and that sort of thing as well. So, you can't really trust the powers that be. There's a lot of room for people looking for a backdoor for themselves and basically treating everyone else like garbage, keeping them ignorant so that they can make their escape, so that they don't have to go through any of the problems that the working class, the serfs, the peasants, whatever you want to call them, have to go through, which is this horrible ailment. Except when they make examples of people of power for whatever reason they decide to make certain individuals the receptor of this sort of problem. I mean, you could take Lady Gaga, for example. I mean, she's had all kinds of health ailments, and she was propped up to be the person to be blamed for what the mob does. And that's not entirely fair. I don't think it's entirely unfair, though. I'm rather neutral on the subject because I don't know if she's done anything bad, but probably has. We don't know these things. And she is a branch of the government. The propaganda unit, the pop star, celebrity, cult of personality type thing. But that's another subject altogether, which I'm not going to talk about right now. Asymptomatic. Basically, I wouldn't be surprised if a high percentage of the local population is asymptomatic. 98%, 99%. Those kind of figures. And you go and get tested, they tell you your results are negative. That's because they lied to your face. They are calibrating it by slowly bringing it up, raising the temperature of COVID in bodies so that it doesn't cause, people in the streets dropping like flies. And this is all risky business because I believe they don't really understand how far they can push the envelope. Because they keep talking about getting a vaccination as quickly as possible. Getting a vaccination as quickly as possible. That's what they keep saying over and over again. And it's like, well, how far are you willing to go to do that? Are you willing to, I made the metaphor of calling it a thermostat before. Are you going to run from it, room temperature to 35 degrees like that? Is someone going to really be motivated to crank up the thermostat that fast? I would like to believe that we didn't live in a world filled with psychotic liars, but, that would be someone who's stupid who would believe that. A lot of people would say that Donald Trump, he's to blame for everything. No, Mr. Nice Guy or Mr. lying sack of shit fucking Justin Trudeau is no better. He does as many bad things. He just does different bad things. And his acolytes and followers go along with what he has to say because it fits their narrative and that's the direction they wanted to go. I mean, if you want to be in a position of power, you're going to have to make decisions that people aren't going to like. I believe someone by the name of Barack Obama said something along those lines. And you really knew that guy, you really wouldn't like him. I mean, the praise he gets. And it's like, yeah, he kind of doesn't deserve it. And he deserves to be, insulted and laughed at as much as Donald Trump does. But because he has a stern, strong demeanor, people don't do that. Although they should. I think this vaccination can wait. I think that if they're deliberately going to calibrate COVID-19 into people so that they're more receptive to create antibodies which can be used to create a vaccine, I think it can be done much slower. I don't think, this second wave is going to be brutal. mentality, and it should be brutal mentality, like I believe a lot of the medical community does believe. Um, yeah, because I mean, as I said before on other things, other videos, COVID 19, pure undiluted COVID 19 is probably 100% fatal to anybody who contracts it. The problem is there are many things in laboratories that are 100% fatal. So, I mean, to focus on this one as a particular one, that they need to get a vaccine as soon as possible, might be because in other parts of the world, particularly China, there are sections of that country that have already developed a strong resistance to COVID 19. And this gives them, dare I say, an evolutionary advantage over the rest of the world because we're now more receptive to that plague. Whereas they may have had a strong resistance for it for many decades, slowly in increments. To be honest with you, I think the Chinese Communist Party would have not really cared about their human rights and gone about it a lot quicker. Therefore, more fatalities. Therefore, more test subjects and that sort of stuff. As a way of attacking the world, if anyone dares question their trade policies with that country. And the Westerners are too addicted to stuff manufactured in China, and we need to weaken that dependence on their crap, because that's what most of the stuff is. It's all crap, and we don't actually need it. A lot of people aren't going to like that because they invested heavily into the stock market. They're the entrepreneurs. They're the business owners. They're the people who would do anything to make a lot of money, and to see business practices change that are not complementary to their business plan. They're not going to take that well. And there are intellectuals who know as much as I do and far more, and still choose the wrong path of thought. I'm not saying they have to agree with me to be on the right path of thought, but they still choose to go about a train of thinking that is not the best and is biased based on their own personal position. We live in a society where people, they have no problem shafting people of lower class than themselves. I mean, it's always been that way, and if you think things are different now, then you are obviously very stupid, because things are not different. People still get shafted, and the higher classes do want to shaft the working man into creating this vaccine for them, so that they don't have to go through the pain and suffering that this virus is going to bring about on people. And not only that, but they want it quickly. So not only do they want none of the problems, they want a guaranteed solution in case anything should happen to them, because they're so important, and quite honestly, they don't give a damn about us. So are they much different from the Chinese Communist Party? Well, they are a little bit, in the sense that they're not quite as desperate. But if they were, you know what? Those isolation chambers on the back of pickup trucks that there were in China, yeah, they'd be here too. Here in Canada, yeah, yes, it would be. Because, with a limited power structure controlling the masses and able to weave their way through propaganda, through lies, through deception. They can implement their will no matter how ridiculous and absurd it sounds, because they can create such a commotion. And I'm tired of this subject constantly being dumbed down. I see intellectuals everywhere. They're on YouTube, they're in the public, whatever. And you know what? They're smarter than the propaganda and the rhetoric that's being told. And somehow this government and the way it's proceeding about this figures if they tell a story often enough and in such a way that people will begin to believe it, and they'll have no choice but to believe it. And it's like, no, that psychology doesn't work anymore. Might have worked with the peasants during Mao Zedong's era. Might have worked with the unemployed workers of Germany in World War II, before World War II, I should say. Might have worked in other instances, but it doesn't work here. There's too much opposition to this government-sanctioned way of thinking about this virus. And I honestly don't see a problem in the public being better informed as to the why about this problem. Don't forget about the what's going on. Think about why it's going on, and then you'll better understand how it can be done. And when you understand those concepts, you'll be able to better prepare yourself for this virus. And as I've said before in other videos, yes, washing your hands is good. Yes, wearing a mask or a shield is good. Continue doing that. Wash them as well. Or, at least wipe down with, some sort of cleaning agent on your shields. But you have to understand, the people that are pulling the strings, not a single one of them doesn't have dirty hands. And a bar of soap isn't going to fix that. Because they got a disease of the mind. And these people don't have any problem treating us like cattle. So long as you know that and you understand that, then you'll be a little bit better off. And then hopefully you'll think of other ideas that perhaps even I haven't thought of, and you could be useful to society rather than a shill or a puppet for the powers that be. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll talk to you people later. Have a good one.